My name is Tom Fisher and we're here at the University of New England in the regional city of Armidale, New South Wales, and today we are going on a ride, a two-wheeled flaneur from right here, which is a workplace of mine and somewhere I have studied before, to my home right near the centre of Armidale. I'm a very early PhD candidate in the School of Geography and Sustainable Communities at the University of Wollongong. So not this university, just to avoid any confusion. And I'm taking this ride today to see what sort of feelings it evokes and what sort of questions, research questions, it generates, stimulates for me. Right now I'm feeling pretty excited because we have a big long downhill where we probably get up to about on or possibly even over the speed limit of 50 kilometres per hour. So as you can see, despite the built-up nature of where we were back there, we're actually just outside of town in an area of regional Australia. No kangaroos close up there today. There often are. And that's all part of this ride, which I've taken many times. It's all varied scenery. New roundabout here, about 6 months old. And there on your left you can see the remains of what was a cycle lane. And we call that, it even used to come to right up to the corner. And now we turn on to some cycle lanes. So on this ride, a couple of different facility types, and you'll see the state of maintenance right there is not so good. So these lanes were built in the mid-1990s. Look at that. Haven't actually been along this side for quite a while, and it's deteriorated even further. From some heavy rains that we've had. So riding along here, I'm very interested in the notions that the ride is not just for transport from A to B, even a ride that is a commute. And unless I'm very distracted by many other things, or I'm stressed, I know that I've always got a great deal of pleasure out of this ride and many others that have also been rides for a transport purpose. So it generates an important set of questions to ask participants in my research, and I'm hoping to speak in depth with a number of cyclists who live here, who ride for transport, and explore what they get out of it, and also how they feel about these sorts of facilities. And not just the general, do like bicycle lanes, etc. But how do you feel about these bicycle lanes in Armidale and their state of repair? I'll focus here because I would certainly say that that is dangerous. All this loose stone, hard to tell what's loose on the surface, what part of the path is loose, and It's hard to notice any appreciable maintenance of this facility for since construction, really. A bit of line marking, that is about it. So that said, for myself there is also a sense of adventure coming into a patch back there that's a little bit dangerous. I don't know if I'd quite feel that sense of adventure if I came a cropper, as we say in Australia, and fell off my bike, particularly into traffic. So lots of deterioration of this lane. Still rideable for an experienced cyclist, especially one with a sense of adventure. But what about less experienced, less confident cyclists? How do they feel about that? And how do they live with that in an environment where we have the local government with very little income, massive debts, and seemingly very little political appetite? Here the lane comes to an abrupt end. We move across to occupy the whole of this lane. Now, confident cyclists will do that. Moving through this roundabout, I often think of two friends who I know were hit by motor vehicles right there. It's hard not to be on your mind. Stretch of road with no facility. Now you can see the cycleway, off-road cycleway up ahead. Coming off that section of road, we come along here. Hello. Keep to the left. Thank you. A great example, there's sometimes a need to be assertive. Over on the left here, so this is the John Fales or Creekland cycleway, and it runs all the way from one side of town to the other with several branches. As you can see out there, first length of this was constructed in the late 1970s, and a bit of a pioneering facility in Australia. However, very little done since the mid-90s, when a number of those branches were constructed. And for me, it feels great to ride on, even if it's not in perfect condition. It's certainly not as bad as the condition of the lanes back there. Here on the left we have new lighting being installed at a cost of around $500,000, all federal Australian government money. So not a cent from the local council, the local government, and it's something that when I see those under construction, I think, yeah, not one local cyclist I know was aware that that project was going to occur, and it's really a public safety crime prevention project than a bicycle facility project. When I get here, I see these are actually plantings of local native vegetation, and I have personally been involved in planting many of these trees and shrubs, not these ones right here, and they're recovering well after fires last year. Now, around here, the fires are a very raw and emotional topic, because we did have the most catastrophic fire season just last year. Not right here, because we are right near the middle of town. And this town, Armidale, is about halfway between Brisbane and Sydney. I'm about 600 kilometres from the campus of the University of Wollongong, where I have just started my PhD 3 weeks ago. So many thoughts as I ride along. I always appreciate the beauty of those river care plantings all along here. Before then there was no native vegetation, or not for a very long time, not since well before I was born. There was nothing but exotic weeds, and I feel a great sense of attachment to the place, not only from riding. I feel very immersed in the place, riding along there unmolested by any traffic. But now that's about to change, and we have to look the traffic. And obviously that's a big issue for cyclists and in big cities with major traffic volumes and major traffic congestion. So I'm very interested in the regional perspective of how cyclists feel about road traffic and what sort of interactions have they had. Generally great. Have there been some very unpleasant experiences, harassment, intimidation, or actual real violence? And I know that I've certainly myself suffered harassment and intimidation right here in Armidale, but my mind always compares it to my experience of adolescence in Sydney, a city of 4.5 million people, where those problems seemed a lot worse. We're nearing the end of a journey that I always like for many reasons, and one I hadn't touched on was the political, the environmental, and it is, I guess for me, theatre in a sense, which I'm very interested in as well, that I'm performing to the world, I suppose, what needs to be performed, and that is the performance of change in this world, for many reasons, but a key reason is the unfolding catastrophe that is human-induced climate change, of which I mentioned the catastrophic bushfires back there. There's a strong relationship. So very early on in my PhD candidature, and many questions in my mind, and there's no better way to think about them than to be on an actual ride. And so thank you for sharing that with me today. My name's Tom Fisher from the University of Wollongong, Australia. Bye for now.